Hello, everyone. Welcome to another EA Zoom panel. I'm Robin Grabfelder, and today we're joined by Eric Myers, Ryan Evans, Suzy Holbrook, and Sue Hillyard, and we may be joined a little later with Nia Filer. Today we're going to discuss the powerful astrological shifts that are unfolding this year. There are so many powerful planetary alignments that we're going to be witnessing. It's truly unprecedented, and so there's a lot to discuss. All the outer planets are changing signs. The inner planets are going to station both forward and retrograde, and there's a significant conjunction at the 0-degree point of Aries, and then there's the eclipses to talk about. And March and April are highly significant months. So this is all going to signal a time of profound transformation, both personally and collectively. So with all that said, let's get started with our discussion. Who would like to get started?
Well, what I'm going to do is put these charts up, if that's okay, and that might kind of get us going here. So what do we want to start with? I mean, I think that the Mars cycle, when Mars went direct, is to me this Mars cycle has been quite transformative with the retrogradation, moving back from Leo into Cancer, and then February 23rd is when Mars went direct. So it's been, a couple of weeks ago, but I think this was, to me, the jumpstart into Aryan theme of start, of initiation, of, about what your soul is longing to explore. And so that to me is the kind of the springboard to at least this Aryan, this Aries in Aries, that huge soul call to what is our moral path that we are initiating now, that Saturnian theme. But anybody else have thoughts on it? I can pull up any of the other Ingress charts if this one isn't getting flowing.
Yeah, the whole Martian theme. Thanks for all of that, Suzy. The whole Martian theme this year, Saturn, Neptune, Venus retrograding through Aries. There's well said. This is a fiery year. And when I consider how Mars retrograde stationed in my own chart and the things I'm learning personally, just where that is and all the themes surrounding that Mars, it's like I know that myself personally, it's about taking my power back and understanding exactly who I am and what I'm about and how to move forward in the direction that I know I need to go. Now, that's my first house. When we consider this in Cancer, in the direction, what path am I to follow? The path of the heart. And the heart is not always, really audible. It's not really cogent. It might speak in metaphor and sense impression, color and music. So really being able to define what the heart is saying and courageously act on that. If bouncing off what you were saying, Suzy, if we can propel ourselves through this Aryan territory, led by the heart, I'm going to be a lot more optimistic of the outcomes of this year than if we were to shadow Cancer, move forward out of fear and hyperprotection and defensiveness and cutting ourselves off from those things that could feed our heart. So there's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I love that, because you're saying that your first house is being because your ascendant is Cancer, and so yes, because that is your impulse to start is what opens your ascendant house.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I get you. Well, it's also for everybody too, because that Mars retrograde coming out of that retrograde in Cancer, we talked previously about the home, with the California fires and that loss and that deep emotional, sense of the need to be safe, the need to belong, and all of us watching that. And so it's, that kind of energy, in the United States about, to me, about feeling unsafe because I don't know what's going to happen. To me, there's a lot of fear evoked by the political climate. And I think, so we're all like in that place of deep emotionality. And when, that February 23rd hit and Mars went from retrogradation to still, I mean, that's a lot of energy. And then like the release point when it started forward motion, it's a lot of energy and a lot of potentially need for protection, potentially need for bolstering your support system, the importance of securing a safe yourself and everything. So that cancer theme, we can see that Mars down here. And there's been this prayer, this the Aryan planets here. It's just going to get more and more emphasized. So for sure, huge energy.
Well, Venus retrograding into Aries is going to intensify all that also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I see this, massive Pisces pileup currently leading to Aries, this transition between Pisces to Aries that seems so emphasized with the current astrology. And one of the things that I actually really like about this is that so often people look externally and what's going to happen and what are your predictions and all this stuff that that's not my thing. With the emphasis on Aries is you get to create it. That's the whole point, is that it's a new beginning. It's up to you. There is nothing that is written that we just look up. It's all about behaving anew from what you want to create, the inspiration of Pisces, giving behavioral kind of action with Aries. So, how are you going to create your new life? It's up to you. Anything is possible. What are you going to dream up? Says Neptune and Pisces on the North Node. And so I think a lot of the current astrology with these retrogrades, Venus and Mercury are both going to go, well, Venus is already retrograde now, is to reassess, okay, what were my conditioned thoughts or stories or things that are familiar that I thought I needed to dream up? Maybe I'll reconsider that. Maybe there's something else. Maybe I'll do something new. And that I think is the challenge and the opportunity.
I love that optimism.
Yeah, I love it
Well,
too.
it's not
Very,
optimism.
very well said. And also, I'd like to add on to that the Mercury and Neptune as rulers of the nodes are meeting, 3 times, going back and forth. They're like weaving the dream, as you said, and allowing us to really dig in and feel and dream how we want to move forward.
Yeah, and to pick up on what Ryan was and Suzy were saying about Cancer, Jupiter headed to Cancer. It's not even that far. It's only 3 months away from now. Believe it or not, will be June. And so we've got Jupiter entering Cancer. Then in July, Uranus enters Gemini, which is a whole other huge thing that we can spend our entire time on, which I kind of would like to. But I do think that the more immediate one that needs to be discussed is the Saturn Neptune both getting to Aries previously, which is kind of what we're discussing now, bridging Pisces to Aries. But to me, this is a hugely significant combination. Neptune isn't conjunct Saturn that often. I think it's probably once every 40 years or something around there. Does anyone know the exact number?
I think it's like 37.
Something around
And I know
there.
it's
late
never
30s.
been conjunct at the 0 point of
It's been,
Aries.
yeah, it's been really close, but yeah, not on that first degree for
I think the last time Saturn was conjunct Neptune was in the late 80s with the
Right.
fall of the Soviet Union
yeah.
Yes.
and all the other major shifts that happened around 1989-ish. I think that was the last time.
Yes.
The dissolving of boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a whole new visioning of how the structures are going to be.
Right.
And I'll mention this, one other point about it is I hate to use personal examples, but I will.
Oh, please.
Is I was born with a very exact, incredibly tight Neptune Saturn opposition in 1971. And I was born when John Lennon wrote Imagine. And that has the same stamp to it. And most people know that song. And what John Lennon was singing about in Imagine is Neptune Saturn. Imagine we can dissolve the boundaries. Imagine that we could all coexist as one human family. It could be you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. It's kind of like Neptune Saturn is, we all know that we can live in alignment with some type of imagined vision. And also, the Saturn's like, but that ain't going on right now. Look what's happening. And the disillusionment and the yuck factor, and we're very far from bringing heaven to earth, is also part of it.
Yes. Very true.
Totally, man. And so therefore I'm so grateful on one level, or from one perspective, from one omniscient perspective. I'm so grateful that the nodes have changed signs. And the South Node is, now transiting through Virgo. And if we're really, 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 really conscious of this, then we can use what we could consider skills, talents, and resources inherent in the South Node to take a really mature, healthy, concerted look at how messed up Virgo everything actually is, how broken everything is. And the shadow of that is getting stuck there. The shadow of that is being, oh God, everything's broken and everything's stuck. But we have to know that we're in jail before we can plot our escape. We have to know that something's broken in order to fix it. We have to know that, okay, everything that we've done as a society only works to this extent. All right, now here's where we give thanks for that North Node. All right, now how do we integrate some of those Piscean suggestions? All right, we know that it's broken, so like you're saying, Eric, how can we reimagine this? Okay, we know this thing doesn't work. Okay, well, what could work? And maybe, just maybe, like this isn't the only place that people can come together over the next year and a half and reimagine what is possible, because we know it's all broken. So rather than just spinning around, oh, it's all messed up, oh, it's broken, oh, it's Trumpocalypse, oh, we're all screwed, okay, what's the solution? How can we reimagine? How can we inject more compassion, lightness, forgiveness, faith, gratitude into the equation? We bring that in through that North Node. Then we can theoretically maybe actualize that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries action, where we take action on those things that we're imagining now. That would be cool.
I'm going to mention
And then-
to pick up
and
on
then
that.
Then go back to that South Node in Virgo with the desire to fix what's broken and figure out what is worth fixing and what isn't.
Totally.
Yes, with the Pisces North Node, I notice out there's quite a hunger for things that are more visionary. You know, Zelensky now is the flavor of the day. And I think a lot of this visionary hunger is thrown at him because there's not that many others. I mean, Bernie Sanders is now 183 years old, so he's not necessarily the future. And there's not that many other people stepping up to be the next visionary. So this is what we need. We need people to Aries step up and say, okay, ready for action. But where are we going to find those? How are they going to get airtime? These are some of the issues of the Virgo South Node to balance it. Yes.
And
To
quite
answer that, though,
coincidentally, Bernie Sanders has Mars retrograde in Aries,
Right.
which I thought was interesting. He's definitely was a pioneer, but he does need to find somebody to pass the baton to.
Yes, to
Yeah.
carry on his vision.
Sorry, Ryan, I didn't mean to.
oh no, it's okay.
Okay.
No. Leo Moon, third house. I'm Saturn and Gemini. I'm learning. So, Darth Vader was the chosen one. Interesting. Here's this person who is almost solely responsible for numerous deaths and destruction, and planets in the galaxy, but he's the chosen one. Oh man, what's up? But it was he who eventually picked up the Emperor, threw him off the platform down into the reactor. He did eventually bring balance to the force, or at least in that segment of the story. And so I have to believe, please, whatever great mystery, I have to believe that all it takes is one of us to send out a ripple of change, send out a ripple of light, have a new idea, pioneer a new way, Aries, to find a different direction. Say, through my own individual experience, I've found the mango tree. Hey, everybody on the deserted island, this way. And so I have to have hope that amidst the climate of everybody, come on, people now, everybody get together, love one another right now. I have to have faith that all it really takes is one of us to just say, oh, whoa, I got this thing. All it takes is one person to say, forget you, FBI and CIA, I'm coming out with my free energy device. All it takes is, one person to say, oh, hey, how about this? Now what happens if hundreds or even thousands of individuals who have had enough finally say, this is the way that I think is really empowering towards making that Neptune vision, Neptune work, Saturn. I have to have hope. And so, yeah.
Neptune and Aries, I'm going to write about it soon. I haven't written about it yet, but to me, what it comes down to is that so much in history, perhaps the age of Pisces that we are gradually leaving, is I'm going to find salvation outside of myself. I'm going to find it through some religion, through a Messiah, through astrology, through something that's governing my stuff outside of me. And I'm going to look outside for the answers. Neptune in Aries says, it's all about you. It's your responsibility. It's all within you. And you don't need authorities and governing bodies and all of that. You have your own relationship with the divine. You can't count on anyone else. They're all projections. They're all story. It's up to you to live your awakened self. No excuses, no bullshit. It's up to each individual to live their spiritual path. And we have to, I think, release this kind of preoccupation with external authority or external guidance. And astrology, in my view, some uses of it has been very guilty of that. The answers are in your chart. That's the depiction of your destiny. Whereas in my view, it's a co-creation, is that we of course partner with our chart. It's not all written. It's us to create And so I think there is a paradigm shift from an external to a more self-aligned locus of control around our spirituality, Neptune and Aries.
I love the page that we're both on.
I like that too. One thing I'm going to bring in this other side to this Neptune in Aries, because at least for me, there is always this fear of not having any power, and experiencing that, and being in that place. Like, how do you go to this visionary place when that's your reality? And so, and that's this axis of Virgo Pisces. Is how do you start the path of healing? How do you go from that place of disenfranchised or powerlessness to a place of power where you are a co-creator? Sometimes there's this healing path, and I think the answer, like Eric said, is in your chart, but I think that it's a leniency with your own process that's so important, and that the North Node and all this Neptune, it might be really just starting consciousness of forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of when you haven't done what you need to do to be in your own power. And I think that sometimes I can speak for myself, I can be my own worst enemy and recreate the past through that Virgo energy. And so I think that just being where you are, even if it's not in the dream, even if it's not where you know you could be, and you have to start where you are and start that own self-forgiveness and the healing journey based on your own, where the South Node is hitting in your chart.
Totally. And
Suzy,
that just harkens to the
Ryan,
harkens. Go ahead.
before you talk, Suzy, can I get you to do two things? Turn your volume down just a smidge, and also can you make the chart bigger so that we can all see it?
Oh, you all can't see it?
Well, it's small. I just wonder if you can make it just the
It's the whole thing, the whole screen. But let me try again. And
your volume is just a little higher than everybody else's. So if you could turn it down just a
That's
tad.
better.
That's perfect.
oh, okay, great. And my volume a bit better.
Yes, it
Yes.
seems like it.
Can I talk? Maybe you can tell.
Well, no, I think you could turn it down just a little bit more.
Okay, and my microphone's pretty close too, so let me move that back.
That's better.
That's better.
I'll just talk less loud.
Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
Nia. Welcome.
Sorry for coming in late. The child wouldn't go to sleep. But I mean, coming into this conversation with a homecoming.
Yay. So good to
And
see
sorry
you.
for barging in, but what Suzy was saying is so amped with this kind of signature, because if we talk about Mars as the individual, in our potency, if you will, and Neptune as impotency and the whole,
Yeah.
So it's us and the universe, us and God, our power to fight for what we believe is right, and the understanding that nothing changes under the sun.
Yeah.
And that sense of loss, in a way, with the need to go on with the personal battle and at least aspire for triumph, even if we know that we're made to fail.
Yeah.
That tension is very important in this time, and that relationship that we have to that tension, because that relationship can be creative and bring wonderful things into our lives. It could be musical, it could be artistic, it could be generous in heart, but it can be also debilitating. It can cause syndromes like addictive behaviors, us wanting to run away from reality because the tension is too high. We can't deal with our impotency to change the universe as it is. Shutting up.
No, don't shut up. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad
Same
you're
here.
here. I
Same here.
appreciate all that.
Same
I
here.
want to jam on one thing you said, nothing changes. And
Mm.
it's true. It's true. Spring is always going to be spring. Winter will always be winter. We have, and this is written about in my forthcoming book, but we all have our basic primal survival motivations that originate from our ancient engagements with the growth cycle of nature. So on that basic primal level, we all have our survival needs. We all have our basic primal Aries. This is my right to exist, and here is my thorn or poison leaf if you try to negate my existence. And then with Saturn and Neptune both entering Aries, the potential shadow here now of disappearing, dissolving, it doesn't matter, who cares anyways, I'm going to either disappear into my own world or bring the rest of the world into my own personal hell. All these are possible with Neptune and Aries. Nothing matters, it's all, screw it all. And so therefore, meet my shadow Aries. I have an illusion that I'm acting on. I have a projection that I'm acting on. Oh boy, now we're getting into some scary territory.
Yes,
And
Real.
so
It's happening in front of our eyes.
it is.
yeah, it is happening in front of our eyes.
So
So
what
Yeah.
client, what would you say, how would you help a client who is out, out picturing and attracting kind of resistance from the environment, and it's actually their own beliefs. It's
yes,
the belief of what the world is and
yes.
is. How do you change that?
Yeah, what we have to change in an erroneous belief is bringing it all back to, and that's why we're hoping that this North Node through Pisces and these last little bits of Saturn and Neptune through Pisces are helping to remind us of the bigger picture. And Aries breaks down when it hasn't successfully navigated through Pisces and received that download, gotten that bigger picture. And so shadow Aries and has to kind of go back and try to reclaim a little bit of that bigger picture in that Pisces. So someone who has lost their faith, someone who is only acting out of selfishness and anger through erroneous, clouded beliefs, projections out and upon them, go back to the Pisces place and say, okay, what's the big picture here? What's the higher vision? What is it that you really want in your heart and soul?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. And then when we can go back to that, oh, I just want to be happy. I want my dad to love me and I want a good job. Okay, Aries that then.
Mm-hmm.
Then you stand up and you say, yo, what's up, Dad? Then you say, wait a second, I get to be the manager, not just the burger flipper or whatever it is.
So what I'm hearing is you go back to the South Node in Virgo. You help them analyze what it is they really want, maybe? If I speak for you.
Sure, the technique I usually use is if someone enters Aries unsophisticatedly, then there was some developmental disruption in the preceding sign that may be negating that healthy engagement with the successive sign.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on this idea of maturation because I'm looking at this chart, and that's really what we're talking about. On the North Node, the point of development, Saturn maturation, spiritually, Neptune, in a new way, Aries. And in my view, in my approach, I look at the moon as things that need to mature from an earlier stage of development. And here we have a Taurus moon square Pluto. And this really illustrates a lot of the issue that the collective, especially in the Western world, is caught up in. Worry about materialism, worry about security, worry about one's piece of the pie, and the friction with Pluto and Aquarius, which is sustainable collective living on the planet, interdependence for all of us. is in that square friction with the Taurus moon. Interesting with this ingress chart for Saturn and Aries. So basically, we all need to, just relax a lot of the obsession with self-gain and to be able to be, a lot more interdependent. I don't want to, get into a political discussion about capitalism versus communism and the rest, but
Why
I
not?
do. But I do think, or socialism probably more accurate, and bring back Bernie and his 153-year-old kind of visionary thing. But however, I do think that that is really what we're being called to. It is a challenge to talk about because nobody likes when people talk about others being less evolved. The whole reaction against wokeism is around that. Like, and, but there are developmental levels and stages emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. There just is. And that's part of life. And we need to have a dialogue about spiritual evolution because a lot of times people just look at it as just one opinion or a next, and they flatten evolution that we're all the same and these things are made up. But there are levels of evolution.
I'm looking at that Jupiter and Gemini squaring node and seeing that as the mass misinformation and lies that are pervading a lot of people's consciousness during this time.
Completely. And I think that's Pluto in Aquarius too. It's actually
Sure.
limiting the exchange of ideas and the truth. We don't have access to the big picture, or we're very quickly not having access to the big picture.
Yeah,
So
and the sun is squared Neptune.
yeah.
With Gemini there's just a lot of big pictures around, and we don't have time to understand and see them all. And we pick and choose because we relate to the people around us and we see what they pick and choose. And that's what usually we pick and choose. We're clan oriented by nature. But it's gonna be okay, It's Jupiter. And and that Pluto in Aquarius is trined by Uranus and Mercury. And again, you could say the sun as well.
And
And
up to
so,
the fact that Uranus is changing into Gemini as well. I think that's a good thing.
yeah. Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
This does point to learning. Uranus conjunct Mercury and Jupiter and Gemini square the nodal axis. Both of those things are about further exploration of the mind to learn new things, because part of the stuckness of the Virgo South Node is in the familiar regiments and routines and the ways, the operating systems that we're familiar with. And so I do think, and this is what I'm so excited about with Uranus getting to Gemini. Here we have a conjunct Mercury in May, and then shortly after this, in early July, Uranus gets to Gemini. And I will say this, I've been excited about the potentials of Pluto and Aquarius for a long time. But as a Uranian, I've been waiting for Uranus to get to Gemini now for 25 years, and we're about to get there. And it's such an exciting combination about learning, about going beyond the familiar into new paradigms, new understandings, things like cosmology or astrology or metaphysics. Or one of my interests, just to bring in the dualism of Gemini, is I've become very interested in heliocentric astrology, and I see that as a necessary companion to geocentric astrology. So discussing things with two charts, with two perspectives, Uranus and Gemini, this is where things are headed for me at least. And I think we're all going to be broadening our minds, at least that's what I hope.
Totally. Yeah, with that
Yeah.
Jupiter and Gemini square the nodes in that other ingress chart, it's exactly like what you were saying. It's the can we have the confidence, Jupiter, to let go of our strong Virgo-y like opinions and open up to an awareness of more stereophonic or perception where the Piscean possibilities are endless. And we can't open up to the endless possibilities if we're stuck in a myopic awareness. And so we give thanks for the potential of that Jupiter that's saying, hey, can we? That's a square. Can we do it? You're being challenged, a little friction here to open up the mind to broader Jupiter perspectives, Gemini. And if we can do that, we can open up to that, all the information in imagination. And if we can't, then we're stuck back in that south node. So
I
levels
want
of
to pick up,
Can't remember which
Well-
chart that was. Well, this one squares. This one's actually the Jupiter Cancer ingress, but that is still, I'm not quite, that's not quite squaring, but oh yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the same thing right there.
Yeah.
ago, you had the Uranus entering Gemini chart up.
Want me to go that one? Okay.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on what Nia said a minute ago with the Uranus and Gemini chart, which should be, there it is Nia spoke about kind of tribal or clan-like ways, the social affiliation ways that we, I think, are healing. I mean, there's so much divide, red versus blue, Christian versus whatever, Muslim or Jew, whatever it is, East versus West. I think there's a lot of tribalism out there. And what I see in this chart with Uranus getting to Gemini, conjunct Venus in Gemini, is about connecting interpersonally amongst ourselves as a world family. Uranus, Venus is we're all in this together and we're all part of oneness and we can communicate and we can learn from each other. And it's in opposition to the Sag moon, which is the more, in my view, moon can be more immature or regressive or less developed. And Sagittarius, oh, I'm right, and it's got to be this way. I think that is getting Uranified, meaning obliterated. It's getting, awakened into world togetherness, which is Uranus, Venus. So I love that Venus is with Uranus for the entrance. Now, granted, Uranus will retrograde back to Taurus and then come back for good in Gemini, but I do think it's significant with the first entry here, and I am glad to see that.
Beautiful. Can I pick up on you for just a sentence? Basically,
Please.
what I tell my clients a lot is that really all the conflicts we see around the world, both in our personal lives and in the news, are made up because the world basically has two groups of people, and we can find these two kinds in any continent, in any religion, and most of the time in any family too. One kind is that Sag moon. It's the kind that thinks they own the truth, right? And the other kind is the kind that understands that we were all butt naked babies born on a round world. Nobody owns the truth, and it's a live and let live world, But the other kind thinks that their truth is the only truth, and that we should all abide by their truth. There's this righteousness, vindictive righteousness, even, that we're all trying to be tolerant towards in different ways in our lives.
In the struggle, I mean, in this chart, that moon, the Mars in Virgo there, it says it very plainly, exactly what you're saying is that critical voice, that there's a struggle and argument here with those two viewpoints.
Especially,
I mean-
especially with Mars squaring it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And you could even say with Mars on the South Node, healing patterns that might have been warlike by promising this newfound togetherness, Uranus, Venus, and then the Pisces North Node. And there we go back to the Neptune Saturn conjunction in early Aries. dispositing the North Node, the spiritual maturation piece. And that really is what it comes back to time and time again, is that we are at a pivotal moment of spiritual maturation. And I think the current political scene is a massive test around how much are we going to continue to give power away to the so-called authorities when they are so incredibly obviously unqualified and not credible and vile and corrupt and all the rest. Are we still going to trust the authorities or not? Or are we going to take charge of our own lives?
Feels like Pluto Capricorn all over again.
Well, it's Pluto and Aquarius. It's the challenge for the evolution or the crisis around it.
Both Saturn ruled. Yeah, I'm looking at the sextile there between Pluto and the moon, and then I'm looking at the mutual reception there between the moon and Jupiter. And then I see how it's Yod there, pointing to that Jupiter in Cancer. And so, yes, I'm feeling like it could be a really good wake-up call to taking that moon and like trying to do that beautiful thing where Sagittarius can rapidly evolve from the I know everything to I know nothing, ha ha ha. And that's what we want ultimate Sag to be, right? Oh, it's all a great big joke, and nobody knows anything anyways, because freaking black hole at the center of the galaxy. So, so my hope would be is we could have that feeling in our hearts here that can help mitigate all of the potential tragedy here, and really come to that place of, wow, you believe something other than me. That's really beautiful. I mean, we'd love healthy Sag to say that. So, yeah.
I love that. And I have to say, I'll bring in something personal about me. I'm having a nodal return with Neptune going over my North Node and all of this going back and forth. And I just keep thinking about how can I look at this differently and bring people together that have different views, because it seems to me that the failure has been, I mean, the divide has been, like you said, the everybody owns the truth, and we don't concede that other people can have a different viewpoint.
And that Venus, I think, trying to be an optimist amongst all this is that Venus is really amped up, conjunct that, all that energy, that's the start in Uranus in Gemini, about looking for the truth, not thinking that you know it, but looking, education, communication, and then going, where's that Mercury? The Mercury here is that Leo, with that open heart in the fourth house. It's about being centered from all that is emotionally in a good place, coming from that heart-centered, let's connect, let's not oppose each other, let's not be fragmented, let's not fight. But you know what I'm saying. It's about starting from this, let's be open-minded and let's be open-hearted and hear what people have to say. I mean, they're not going to take anything from you with that open-hearted, open-eared kind of listening approach. So that
what we're looking at here is a deep need for a global conversation between the individuals in the population rather than the governments of the population. A strong need for a conversation amongst the citizens of the world to open up and listen to each other's viewpoints, even though they may be completely diametrically opposed. But ultimately, they're not, because Jupiter in Cancer, let's face it, we all just want to be happy. We just have different approaches to that same end result. So if we can agree on that end result, maybe we can all find pathways to get there that work for everyone, Pluto and Aquarius. Just
I hope
That
you're right.
requires, that
I hope you're
requires a
right.
little Virgo organization.
True, we have that Mars in Virgo, but I think, that it's much more tectonic once Uranus hits Gemini. I mean, things are accelerated exponentially.
Mhm.
And our ideas, words, and our need to get there, there already, is exponentially expedited as well. So if we have our ascendant here in the 4th degree of Taurus, something very capitalistic, stable, wealthy, squaring exactly that Pluto in Aquarius at the 10th house. Well, that's tectonic.
Nia, this
That's
chart is set in Salt Lake, which is
right,
where
right,
Suzy
right, right. Well, I'm not happy for the Mormons then. But
The possibility or not, but outskirts are definitely Mormon.
just saying, I love Mormons, and some of the best food I ever ate was eaten with Mormons, and I had a Mormon spouse for a long time. So, but yeah, views are changing. And if we, by the way, what's the degree of the galactic center?
26 Sagittarius.
Okay, so it's not that close to the Yod central point between the 60 degrees angle of the moon and the Pluto, but close enough. Talking about global opening to different viewpoints, I hope that that optimistic view that Ryan presented is going to play out, and not that tribalism and I own the true stuff. Because from where I'm sitting, it's like a post-traumatic woman that wants to believe in relationship and love. She wants to. But, it's more that she doesn't want to leave, or I don't want to leave, the idea that true love exists, and that sense that humanity can overcome without the strife, the anger, and the bereavement that follows, We're heading into a very hot 2 months when it comes to what's happening in my territory in Israel and the Middle East. And I think we're
too.
going to see some wild displays, April. Goddess forbid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about anybody else doing client work, but 9 times out of 10, people's charts are flaring up in March and April.
There's a lot going on, and also the final Mars-Pluto opposition we've got at the end of April as well. And I was looking at Zelensky's chart earlier today and posted about it. He's got Mars in early Leo, and he's got his sun in early
Retrograde.
Aquarius. I'm sorry?
Retrograde. His Mars is retrograde, so he's right.
Yeah,
He's
it is.
in the
It's-
same cycle.
So anyway, he's being hit, and we've got this building Pluto-Mars opposition one more time that we have to deal with. So that, to say the least, can be fiery and intense and potentially violent. But there's always a high end to it as well, which is the emergence of the individual, building on what we said before about the Aries stuff, the necessity for everyone to take more responsibility for their spiritual situation can be also part of that.
And now time for a commercial break.
Here's a word from sponsors.
Does anybody have his chart?
Do you want me to pull?
Jolly Juice, everybody loves Jolly Juice.
I do. I have it if you want me to.
I just want to say a second about this big measles outbreak, the cutbacks in the CDC under this administration, and the way that that plays into this South Node, Virgo, North Node, Pisces. and I think I do have a chart for, did I put that in here? Oh, yeah, this, it came out, I'm a pediatrician and it came out, this was when I got the New York Times announcement that a child had died from measles. And, you know, I'm not here to talk to, it's not about what people should or shouldn't do. I'm not going to play that sad card. I'm just interested in talking about, you know, the idea of, you know, I think that child was a bit of a victim, but something that we all witnessed, you know, something here about what we are in control of, what we're not in control of, and that we're human on a planet where that's the reality. And just the experience of that. I just thought it was a profound kind of statement or visualization with this chart and that story about, you know, what are we in control of? The ruler of this is that Mercury way up here, you know, as ruler of that South Node, that what are we, that the leading edge of our soul growth, what are we bringing in that are memories that we're here to reinitiate a relationship with, and then make changes from that past experience, you know, in the present moment. And something about walking our talk, maybe something about being healthy in the mundane details, something about what we can do, but then we have at some point to release, and God's will be done. If you don't believe in the God thing, then just the flow of life's will be done, you know, that we never have ultimate control when it comes right down to it. And just the kind of the beauty in that statement with this chart, that the horrifying reality, the optimism that, yeah, we do always have some part to play, you know, just it's a lot.
Scary too. I mean, resistance is futile with all this Pisces going around. But I think belief has a lot to do with it. Because usually, and I think this child, if I'm not mistaken, was one as well. They're children that are unvaccinated, and they come from unvaccinated communities who are mostly Orthodox, Muslim or Jewish, you know, and don't believe in
Yeah,
modern medicine, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It is interesting that issue, because I think it was a Mennonite community in Texas, if I remember correctly, and they don't always immunize. I didn't really look too much into their belief system, so I'm just, you know, going by the seat of my pants by saying that, but that seems to be the truth. And my understanding or my experience is that people who have the belief in that they put their whole life, their children's lives as well, in the hands of a higher being, in some force that they're not in charge of, that then what happens, and that's what should happen. And I've had experiences with people with beliefs that they, like, for example, there's some situations where their children get extremely anemic and really need life-saving blood transfusions, and they will not do it. And so you either make a choice to take away that person, that they're acting against medical advice, this is a minor, and that you get the police involved to give this child life-saving blood transfusions. But the problem in that is that then those families don't really accept that child in the same way that they had, that somehow this child isn't protected by God. You know, it's a very interesting thing. And so anyway, it's exactly that, what you said, Niaz, about.
Yeah, you explained it so well, much better than I did.
Oh,
And you know, and it's horrible because then this child goes into the community, and instead of understanding that this is exactly what should have happened, and maybe, you know, it was God's will that this child would be treated,
Mm-hmm.
this child many times is considered tinted
Mm-hmm.
or, stained.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I deal with these kinds of approaches, from my end as a transgender, and seeing a lot of transgender that come either from Orthodox Jewish communities or from Muslim communities in Samaria or in Gaza. And literally, they both run away to Tel Aviv, and it's total discommunication from their families on the Jewish side. On the Arab side, they're afraid for their lives because if one of their family members knows where they live, they would be murdered, period, for the sake of the honor of the family. So yeah, again, these two kinds of approaches, owning the truth, making everybody else abide by my truth,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that it's a live and let live world. Where are you in? Which group?
And this exact issue of transgender is kind of, I deal a lot in my medical practice with transgender youths and that tremendous struggle that they're already experiencing. And then they have the government say, no, you can't participate in your sport because you're transgender. You can't get those, those procedures, medical treatment, gender affirming care because we're not going to let you. Exactly, that's coming up.
Yeah. Well, evolution is difficult, and it's always a step back, a step forward. That's the dance, If there wasn't any low tide, there wouldn't be any high tide. And, I would say wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. But yeah, we chose to live through it.
This is Pluto and Aquarius, the challenge of modernization, and the trine to Uranus and Gemini, I believe, does have a lot of potential to bring in new innovations, new technologies, new paradigms, new awarenesses. I got into astrology in the late 90s, and I knew that this time in the mid 2020s would be about this. And I've been waiting a long time. So I'm not giving up hope yet that there's going to be a progressive flowering consistent with this astrology. I want to give it some time.
Yay.
And we have many years ahead with Pluto and Aquarius. I also think, we need to talk. I want to put on the geek hat for another second and talk about the fact that we've got this. If you can put up the ingress chart again for Uranus and Gemini, I think would be a good one to put up for this because we've got a bunch of geeks here, and I think our time is well spent on a few minutes on this one. Is this unique triangle of Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, sextile Uranus and Gemini, sextile Pluto in Aquarius, which is trine the Uranus. We've got this very cool triangle with the three outer planets, all sextile and trine with Saturn involved, anchoring it into reality at the point of this triangle. This is a unique astrological configuration that none of us have ever lived through. This is the first time that something like this is evident within this transition to these new signs. So yes, it's cool. What does it mean? We've talked a bit about the pieces, but what about the synthesis here? How might we capture some of this synthesis of new, more mature spirituality, progressive innovation with Pluto and Aquarius, and expansion of the mind of Uranus and Gemini? To me, a lot of that does sound like a astrological focus that could be much more widespread. Or other things too. What do
Definitely.
other
Or
people think?
astronomical. I mean, I see this ingress into Gemini by Uranus. I wish I would be right on every account. I think information would lead the progress of conscious evolution or the evolution of consciousness. Because the more we will find out, the more our paradigm would need to change, would have to change. So developments in intellect, exponential developments in intellect, in understanding, in computing, in getting faster to faraway places, moving from one place to another propulsion systems, the interweaving between the biological and the cybernetic, the marriage between computer and man, and
What to do with
I wish
this?
I'm going to be right on this one, finding out new different, like the different ones. I mean, Uranus is always the alien. So I hope we're going to have first contact. Goddess, we need it, between what's happening with Putin and Trump. We need some parental intervention.
That's kind of where I go, Nia. It's I look at charts and I'll say, all right, here's the best of all possible expressions. All right, here's the worst of all possible expressions. What would instigate their manifestation? What occurs globally or personally to elicit the best or the worst possible manifestations of this chart? And so, yeah, you said it. Boy, I mean, it might be a stretch for some, and others have been waiting their whole life for it, but would first contact make us, would first contact instigate or elicit our need for the best of all possible expressions of this chart? Sure. Is there anything else? Yeah, I could imagine some absolute, and I'm not going to verbalize them. I could imagine some absolutely horrible things that would necessitate the best of all possible expressions of this chart. So I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Some say that contact has already happened.
True that.
Right, just, officially.
And it was a story that was kind of under the radar, but the US government did say we've got tons of unexplained things that happen all the time with our pilots up there and the people who do all the monitoring. There's unexplained stuff with all the time. It's not an unusual thing. There's so much of it we can't even keep track of it all, is basically what I heard. And but why people aren't integrating and talking about that more, I don't know. But because there hasn't been something more vivid for the collective, like on television, perhaps. I don't know. But I do think that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
And AI, I think, is a more immediate thing with our everyday lives with our computers. And I think that has a lot to do with this astrology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think AI is going to be our biggest challenge in the coming future. Retaining our autonomy and versus AI surveillance of everything that we do.
Yeah.
And also, that incident or that time that you're talking about, Eric, I believe was when Pluto first went into Aquarius. There were all these reports of pilots seeing, unidentified whatevers in the sky. I forget what they call them. They call them something different now. But yeah, and I mean, there was just a whole rash of them all at once when as Pluto went into Aquarius, and then it kind of, like you said, it kind of slid under the radar. So I would guess, with Neptune being so prevalent, and I think it's, as you say, flying under the radar. It's it's happening, but we just don't see it.
Yeah.
You know how in all those cool movies like The Avengers or Iron Man, they have all of this crazy technology? Whoa, what would happen if that were real? Oh, wow, what about that kind of suit or that kind of laser or that kind of holographic projection or, beam me up, Scotty, kind of technology. Well, guess
Waiting for
what,
that one.
folks? It's always been there, or not always, it's been there for a long time. And Uranus going into Gemini, especially with a technocratic government, chances are we're going to make a really, really, really sudden, fast, quick, and major shift into a very technological age that many of us back to the landers might have a great issue with.
Yes.
But it sure does feel like we're right on the verge of something that right now we would just call science fiction, but it becoming
Why
science.
the water element is so important. And our discussion about Pisces, the Pisces North Node, Jupiter goes into Cancer this year, albeit Jupiter's only in Cancer for 1 year rather than many. But that is the necessary counterbalance to all the technology is the heart, is the emotional body. So being the Cancer sun I am, I thought I'd mention that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And it's so
Got
important.
land and nature and the great goddess there with Cancer too.
Yeah.
We have to remember always that if we want the Uranian age to be a utopic and not a dystopic age, community, hearth and heart, emotional intelligence, and really the understanding that we're all a big family
It's
is
key.
what is going to keep it that way, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Make it so.
And for each of us at an individual level, I think that the water element, thank God Jupiter's in Cancer, that we have that capacity to create all of these huge potential leaps of this Aryan energy, the starting, the initiation. Well, we don't want to go forward and not bring our soul learning, our soul journey with us. That's the water element, the integration.
And I
Yeah.
think that
And
what is frightening us the most about AI, by the way, it's the allegory of the human losing its heart and
Yeah.
remaining with its intellect alone. What would be if we would let something that has no feelings decide for us what is right? Sorry.
Yeah. Totally.
because so, many people have the mindset that, for instance, something like an online therapist, an AI therapist, or, even more frightening is partners that are mechanical robots. Just this is the horror of Pluto and Aquarius that I've also been meditating on for many, many years. One of the words that I came up with about the shadow or the horror of Pluto and Aquarius is simply creepy, is people who are, you know, having relations with robots or something like that.
It goes much darker, my friend.
Yes, I know. And having that be a lot more, out there and available. And I do think that the ultimate dark side of Pluto and Aquarius is snapping. I worked on a psych unit for 11 years, and I saw many examples of people who just snapped and they reached a breaking point and something just shifted. And that is the trauma of the signature at the darker side. So, what is the remedy for that? Is doing the bright side, of course, and giving voice to that and representing that and embodying that and really talking about, spiritual evolution and astrology and things that are progressive and things that do support evolution and the raising of consciousness. And so those who are Aquarian need to up their game in order to proliferate more of that alternative.
Yeah, Aquarius, it's so easy to go cold. It's so easy to isolate. It's so easy to just stay in the cabin and tinker on your plan to take over the world. those Unabomber shadows of Aquarius. You know, let's not underestimate how the trine can be ease with which my dark shadowed ancient woundedness Pluto can connect with my Uranus and Gemini, and put some Venus in there. Relational mental trauma is super easy for me to express that. Oh yeah, no problem. I'll devolve into complete insanity. Sure. So yeah, those possibilities are there.
Yeah,
Let's see
here's my
some freaky shit, as they say in Latin. You know,
Say
could
that
really
again,
see
Neil?
some freaky shit.
Oh yeah.
I think we would have to go into a discussion with this kind of signature Pluto and Aquarius about what is legitimate at the end, you know? Is it okay to go with my robo spouse that I like to maim in public, but she's just a robot, you know? She doesn't care. Is it fine? You know, and I can get even much darker than that, you know, but that's
Yeah,
not get there, you know.
here's my husband, Frank and Stein.
Yeah, I mean, history does show that every time Pluto goes into a sign, we do see the shadow side of it. And Aquarius is associated with trauma, and with Uranus and Gemini, that would be mental trauma.
Iceberg.
Yeah.
So we will have to overcome.
So yes, as always, there is a very wide spectrum of possibilities, and I do hold the sense of possibility here. I want to also rewind that we had the Uranus conjunction in the 60s, basically in the mid 60s, and depending on your preference for orb sizes, most of the 60s was the Uranus Pluto conjunction, the seed time. And now we've advanced here 56 years later, whatever it's been, and we've got the waxing trine. And we did have the waxing square, which brought Barack Obama to the White House, and many other things. But we didn't have that occurred in cardinal signs. And this now is in air signs with the trine. So it is different. But we are picking up, I do believe, from the seed moment of the 60s and a lot of the modernization that occurred, a lot of the humanitarian impulse, a lot of this sense of world togetherness or not was the playing field. And we are picking up on that in Uranus Pluto times.
Well, Trump is trying to isolate us, and so that is going to show us all how ineffective that is, and highlight the need for community and for us to all cooperate and embrace our connection with each other.
Yeah, I wrote about this recently. I called it the Aquarian slingshot. And it's the basic idea that Aquarius progressive movement forward is oftentimes gather momentum by bringing things back initially, or the appearance of things going back. Like Richard Nixon was president during Woodstock. And at the time, that was a completely oppressive, this old, corrupt, call them what you will. And now we've got something that appears 20 times worse. And that gets the Aquarian, mainly young people, like in the 60s, because that's the other point I want to make is young people. I have a son, his name is Drew. He was born 1999, and his generation, they all have Uranus and Neptune in Aquarius. Everyone on the planet born in the late 90s and the early zeros, they all have Uranus and Neptune in Aquarius, and they're now in their 20s and they will be in their 30s soon. And here comes transiting Pluto, and it's going to hit all of their Uranus and Neptunes over the next almost 20 years. And so the way that I've conceptualized is think about a big vat of popcorn kernels and hot oil, and Pluto is going to pop those kernels. And that's what happened to me. I had the biggest life change of my entire existence when Pluto hit my Neptune when I was 24 years old, and I went from an atheist to basically now a spiritual astrologer. That's when Pluto hit my Neptune, was the beginning of that transformation. And I'm sensing that a lot of these young people are also going to get popped with Pluto and Aquarius hitting their stuff.
I agree wholeheartedly, Eric. In fact, what is it? Going back to high school physics, Newton's second law of thermodynamics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so therefore, I take heart or have to have faith in the fact that whatever shadows we see percolating up in the world today, that there is an equal and opposite reaction that we may not yet be seeing, but that is Pisces just under the surface in its pre-emergent developmental phase. And so, yes, this ingress, the July 7th, maybe we get the first little awakenings, the first information, the first little clues as to what, some solutions could be. Oh, for $35.95, you too can have one of these little boxes that you plug into your wall, and there's your free energy tapped into the ionosphere. We don't need to make money off energy anymore. But you know what? That stuff's probably available. You know what I'm saying? And so that's all it would take, or that would be
Right.
one nice solution.
I was joking, Ryan, to say it also can double as your wife.
Oh, jump back.
Okay, listen to
Jack.
this. I just ran a quick check. When in the last 1,000 years did Pluto visit Aquarius when Uranus was visiting Gemini? And guess what? The only time before 2025 was from the year that the United States was erected until the year 1782. And we all remember all the revolutions and developments and changes in the world and that pivotal period of history.
Yes, the Uranus discovery chart, 1781, has Pluto in early Aquarius, which we're now coming up in the first return of Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus in Gemini. When Uranus was discovered in 1781 was the last time we had astrology like this, and that changed everything.
And the next time is just in 250 years. It's going to leave us completely only at the year 33, this combination, in a sense. But when Pluto, but it's going to come back at 2277, 76 again. So rare, pivotal, tectonic, exciting. And here's a word from our sponsors. Jolly Juice, we all love a Jolly Juice.
How would you like a chip in your wrist? It will contain your personal information, your health information, your credit card. For the low, low price of $19.95, you too can get chipped.
That info will be sent to Elon Musk.
Exactly.
Right, to make sure you're a good boy or girl or other. Yeah. No, sorry, only those two, right? Oh.
We're all going to become an extension of Elon Musk by the end. Even Trump will be Elon Musk clones, if you will.
No!
Yeah, he would like that.
Yeah, isn't that already happening?
I mean, I'm trying, Mama, I'm trying.
So did we
Yeah,
want to look at Zelensky's chart?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so let
I need
me,
to stop sharing. All right.
okay. Let's see. So I put this with the Mars retrograde is where I was looking at it previously. But the inside chart is his birth chart. The middle chart is progressions, and then the outer is when Mars turned retrograde. And the reason I did that is because of his Mars right here at 0 degrees retrograde. So he's in a cycle that's, parallel. He's in a similar Mars cycle to what's happening now, which
But
I
he has
found
he has
significant.
at 0 degrees of Leo retrograde.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, so the Mars Pluto opposition was, right over his Mars. And it will have moved a little bit by the next one, but yeah. And Jupiter and Gemini.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just wrote about this morning, and he's got a Jupiter return coming. He's got the Mars return now that Mars is direct. And he is emblematic of Pluto and Aquarius on his sun. And what I wrote about this morning is he seems to be a everyman figure in the collective around dealing with the domination consciousness. I talked about him being David opposed to Goliath, which is Putin or Trump. And he really is this emblematic kind of figure of Aquarius with Pluto and Aquarius, especially connected in with the Mars and Leo, dealing with war issues, with this domination consciousness that is so urgent that we address, which is the work of our time. So thank Trump for that one.
Well said.
yeah.
I'm afraid for his life for a long time.
Yeah. But he did stand up to power. So
He still
as they
does
say,
every day.
well, I mean, the incident in the White House, which is to me so shameful.
Yes, he's standing up to the lies
Yeah,
and the oppression.
he was trying very hard, and
I think it's going to all blow up at Trump's face.
I hope so.
me too, sister.
I keep thinking this has got to be it. They have to see it now.
He is one of the luckiest.
Listen, I'm not sure how much gain would be through going through all that suffering. It's like, saying if they're not beaten, they don't understand the lesson, And I really hope that we can overcome it in other ways, because that would lead to a third world war, Putin and Trump. If it will blow up in Trump's face, if the egos of these beasts would be injured, it would be
Take us all down with them.
fast rolling down the abyss, in that sense. I'm
Yeah,
afraid.
there's a lot of the shadow side of Leo coming out in all of this, in my observation.
Because it opposes Pluto and Aquarius.
Mm.
And here's a word from our sponsors.
It is, we're at the fork in the road, and
Definitely.
hopefully we can guide ourselves on the right path.
It's a watershed moment, definitely. Just like, being at the psych ward for many years, having that kind, not personally having that experience, but an analogy, and knowing my patient's tendencies, being a patient myself, knowing the human tendencies, being human myself. I'm not sure we can go by grace and not by judgment.
Here's his chart with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, if you want to look at that. He does have Aries Libra nodes. So
I would think this chart would be quite significant.
yeah, well, I mean, all of this crossing over into, between Pisces and Aries is, I mean, his progressed sun is, look here in Pisces,
Right.
and progressed Mercury and Venus here.
What's that on Pluto? Is that Sisyphus? What is that?
On Pluto, transiting Pluto.
Yeah, down on the bottom there in the fifth house there.
Oh, this one,
Yes.
Susanna, my
Susanna.
named asteroid. Sorry.
Oh.
So I guess I'm kind of.
Well, let me tell you, when Susanna reaches usually the 15th degree of Libra, I mean,
That's where my
historic.
Neptune is.
Yep, she's gonna start kicking butt.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, you're bringing attention to the chart.
Yeah.
Is there a Nia asteroid?
Probably. There's, what, 40,000 of them named asteroids.
That's not a lot.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I find interesting that he's got the Sun-Venus conjunction, and here we're going to have a Sun-Venus conjunction,
Right.
sextile to that.
Well,
Oh,
Mercury transiting Mercury is going to be on his sun.
Transiting Mercury.
Yeah, up at, in the outer ring. Mercury is at 20 degrees of Pisces in the 10th house
Right.
or 11th house, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it doesn't
On his
show
progressed sun.
line up
Yeah,
here, but yeah, it's on his sun.
Like what activation of that south node with all these transiting planets? The question's if he's going to be a victim or is he going to win? The Neptune, Aries, back and forth energy that you mentioned, Robin.
Yeah, and he has his south node in Aries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of this, I mean, the Venus and Mercury retrogrades will happen, right in here by his, progressed and natal south node.
Right. A victim or a savior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's hope it's a savior.
Well, it looks to me like, I mean, what the reporting that I saw yesterday was about all of the leaders in Europe that were
Mm-hmm.
voicing support, and the one,
Yes, the whole free world is going to support him.
yeah, and I noticed even on Facebook that almost every post I saw that night was the heart with the Ukrainian flag colors, and
I saw a lot of posts from people that are following faux news and not in support of Ukraine
oh, interesting. Well,
and believing the false narrative.
And that could be the Jupiter in Cancer coming up is grassroots, heartfelt process, that's going to connect all of this Martian energy, that could be war. It is about initiating our own stance of moral truth, Saturn. But it could also be about the fight. It could be about a battle. And but that Cancer coming in, grounding us in this heart space of grassroots movement. Let's join together against these overlords that we don't agree with.
yeah, yes, and Cancer is very protective, and I mean, like the USA Sibley has a lot of Cancer in it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Trump has Venus and Saturn conjunct in Cancer, and his, protection and isolation comes from a dark place.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of insular, not open to other thinking. Yeah, it could be.
Well, and wanting to be the one in power and in control and calling it all his own.
Wanting daddy's love.
Yes.
On that note, is there anything else that we want to look at?
We're complete.
What's happening with Trump's chart, 2025?
Well, I can put that up too if you want to look at it. It's interesting. So
Just as a quick aside and just a mild conjecture, has anyone looked at Baron Trump's chart? I looked at Baron Trump's chart in a class I held the other day. It was freaking fascinating. Has anyone else looked at it?
I have
No.
looked at it, but I've forgotten now.
I'm going to recommend you look at his chart.
Maybe we should come back and look at his chart.
There's I mean, unbiased, I look at someone's chart and I have a pre-program that says, look at the greatest potential of this chart. Even Trump's I'll look at and say he may not actualize it, but I'll look at it and say,
Right.
what's the greatest potential of this chart?
Right.
Looking at Baron Trump's chart, there's an incredible amount of potential in that chart.
So,
So I'm just going to throw that out there for your own
Should he choose to
continuing
manifest it?
exploration.
Look, he did manifest a lot of his potential. The fact that it's not the highest potential that we would like it to be is true, but he's not a failure, not in his eyes. He's the president of the United States of America.
True that.
And I have this great story about Trump. I have a good friend. She works for the UN for many years, and she's a neighbor of Trump. And before working for the UN, she used to be the secretary of Howard Hughes. And she says that the day she met Trump, it was a very rainy day in New York. And the secretary and the rest of the crew of Howard Hughes were waiting for him. It was at a meeting at this office building, and they were all smoking outside. And it's pouring rain, and they see this kid, 12 or 13-year-old kid, with a suit and tie on, no umbrella, standing and staring them in the eye from across the street, crossing the street without even looking to the sides and starting to look at them in the eye and shake their hand and saying, "Hi, my name is Donald Trump, and one day I'm going to be the king of New York." So, I mean, for him, he achieved his potential. He achieved more than he could ever imagine, probably. That's the problem.
Yes, because
what is our
intentions are evil.
potential?
Well, I mean, I keep saying that his whole purpose is being a shit disturber. I mean, the sun conjunct the North Node conjunct Uranus in the 10th house. That he just
he's reached that potential.
Yeah, definitely. He shaking things up. I mean, whether for good or bad.
Gemini listens to both sides, though. Healthy Gemini.
Yeah,
get to that North Node in Gemini where you take everybody's opinion into account. I don't know that he's necessarily actualized that.
It's on
out of both sides of his mouth.
Don't you find? I mean, I'm sorry I'm bringing this even up, but every time I see him, I see this layer of yellow tint on his face, and I say, "What who does your makeup?"
Mars and Leo on the ascendant.
Yeah, it just, I mean, I'm taking a marker and putting it over your face isn't a good idea, Donald. I've told you that before.
I think that's a universal.
Some kids don't grow up, you know what I mean? Donald, leave the marker alone. Yeah, I hope his kidneys are well, and his liver, because well.
Oh, it's artificial.
AI robot anyways.
It's an Elon Musk clone, but I shouldn't have told you that yet. And here's a word from our
That comes
sponsors.
after the next commercial break. Yeah, right.
I don't know how to bring it up.
What's that?
There's a picture that was posted of by an influential news magazine. In Germany, and the cover shows Donald Trump at a match, lighting up, burning it down.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that a friend of mine has a son that in 2015 drew this picture.
Oh.
Oh.
Wow.
Show it
eerily
again.
resembles-
Show it again, Robin, while you're talking.
He drew this picture, and it resembles the picture in the magazine.
And show the
Wow.
picture in the magazine again.
Well, I mean, we all do know that Trump's a Gemini with Uranus and Gemini, and here comes Uranus and Gemini. So do you think things are going to get more amplified in that direction or not?
Robin,
Yeah.
show it again while you're talking.
This is a picture on a German magazine of Trump burning it down in the White House.
Wow. Interesting. Well, and I remember and I don't remember even what the source was, but I remember somebody saying in the last, probably year or so, that he hasn't even done what he's going to be known in history for. And this was before he was reelected. And I thought, oh my God.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't.
But I think it's true.
I think you're right.
Talking about the horrible effects that might happen with the symbologies that we are entering.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is that he's going to order a preemptive strike on Russia. That's like my worst nightmare.
I don't know that it would be Russia.
Yeah. I think it would be more likely to be with Russia.
I think you're
Right.
all dreaming, There's two schnauzers with very big egos that are trying to be friends.
Yeah, that's
It's like two
true.
very big warriors, and you think they're gonna get along for long with all their interests, whether they like it or not.
Depends on
Conflicted.
who's
This
the top
relationship has
dog.
been going on since
They're both
the
alphas. They want
1970s.
domination of the world, It's like
Yes.
America today, the universe tomorrow. So I don't see them vacationing together at the Gaza Trump,
No,
if you know what I'm saying.
no.
At the Gaza Trump Hotel. No, it's not gonna happen.
Palladians, save us.
What
Yeah.
bothers me the most is that we let this happen.
Yeah, we have to save ourselves. Talking about personal responsibility.
Neptune and Aries.
Well, and
Here we are.
one interesting thing about Putin is that he has the Saturn-Neptune conjunction
Yeah.
from 1952. Let's see. Here's his chart with the lunar eclipse. Maybe I should have put it with the solar eclipse, but
Another
I'm gonna
12th
head
house
out. It's much
politician.
later here in Europe.
oh yeah. Have you had enough? Thanks for joining,
Yeah,
Eric.
I'm absolutely.
Been
Yeah, I
great
need
seeing
to
you
grab
again,
some-
Eric.
Good to see you, Eric.
Good to see you all. I gotta go grab some dinner. It's almost 8 o'clock here, so I'm gonna head out.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
Be well.
So yeah,
Hmm.
he has.
Who's pulling his strings?
Why do you say that?
I don't know.
I don't.
Just kind of a feeling.
Uh-huh.
Just when I, see something like a ruler of the South Node in Libra, they're not acting alone,
Ugh.
especially from the 12th house. I just,
If
I
we have
see
an
12th
accurate birth
house,
time.
I see 12th house politicians. I'm wondering what their other hand is doing.
Well, and
Ugh.
also, Pluto conjunct the South Node.
Especially with Mercury Neptune conjunction as well.
Yep.
Do we know that's an accurate birth time?
It's one that has been around for a while. There's there's controversy.
Controversy about the year.
Yeah, exactly. But this one, to me, is much more believable than a year later. This is more KGB-ish,
Befitting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to me, it's more fitting. I mean, with
Right.
the strategic, Mercury Neptune conjunction, and,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Saturn in the 12th house.
That's stellium.
Yeah. And the fact that he was
And
born at the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which always, or has a lot of times, dovetailed with things that have happened in Russia. And
yeah,
Yeah, it's
important
a very
developments in
significant
Russia.
alignment for Russia.
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But a lot, like if we're talking about the not so positive attributions of the symbology of the Neptune Mercury, is that with some people the truth is malleable and there's no borders to what they can say.
Yep.
Hmm.
They'll say
You
anything
know?
to,
They'll sell you the illusion,
yep,
especially if
exactly.
they want to be in power. Saturn, Sun,
Yeah.
conjunct this symbology. So yeah.
Well, and look at this too. This progressed sun
Yeah, fun. Iceberg,
Ooh.
iceberg.
in the galactic center.
Mm.
Ah,
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
And there was something else that
And
and then his progressed Mars here.
Oh.
on his South Node, North
fun.
Node.
That's fun. Fun all around.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you had your Jolly Juice?
Yeah. I see someone who needs some.
Yeah. I want to see my signature. Where did I sign up for all this?
You're here.
You keep asking, you keep demanding that, Nia.
I know,
Well,
I'm
Mars
just an
is on his
enduring girl,
progressed Uranus. Mars on his progressed Uranus. That's not good either.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
Cancer.
you're right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
stationed right.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. It's pretty
Yeah.
intense.
And Uranus retrograde.
Yes.
I mean, he's definitely. I don't know what to say. And the Gemini moon, so he can talk a good game.
Maybe it's a breakthrough and he comes into his heart, courage to finally break that heart wide open.
You
Praise
think
the
that
Lord is
you think that'll
hallelujah.
happen with Uranus?
we find some
Anything is
illness,
possible with Uranus.
Is there any illness in here? Let's see. Nothing.
Well, he does have Neptune going through his. Oh no, it's in his fifth house.
Maybe he's gonna get a stroke. With all
Maybe.
this Uranian Martian.
Well, Uranus, Mars on Uranus could make a stroke for sure.
Yeah.
Apparition of Mary.
Or a blood
Second
clot.
coming.
Well, and then the eclipses are here. I mean, here, this is the lunar eclipse, but then the solar eclipse will be, it won't be
And
right
that's
on
where
his sun, but it'll be close.
squares is Mars.
Where's his Mars?
Squares.
Oh,
Squares is Mars.
squares his Mars, yes. Yeah. Yes. And
Like a
the
big month this March.
yes, yeah. So we're back to what we were talking about at the beginning. That
Yeah.
yes, there's a lot happening in March.
I hope I can go camping with my child.
I think
Do
that's an
it.
excellent plan.
Well, come out to Wisconsin. We can go ice fishing.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. She would love that too.
Welcome
That's a
anytime.
far dream right now, friend. Yeah. We'll
Doors
see.
always open.
It's
Well,
gotten so much more expensive to fly out of here
oh
It's
yeah.
also
Yeah.
scary to
because of this
fly right
war.
now, what he's done to the FAA.
Yeah.
And like so many companies that were shipping here stopped shipping because the insurance fee is crazy, you know?
Oh,
So like a lot of warranties are void.
oof.
Yeah. I lost you.
Well, I'm wondering if there's anything else that we want to talk about, or if there's anybody that's with us that has any questions. You can either type it into the chat, or I can unmute you if you'd like. Otherwise, maybe we can wrap it up and talk about this again next time.
I think Rachel has her hand up.
Oh, okay, Rachel, let's let me see if I can
All right.
Unmute
Thank you.
her?
Yeah, you got
You
it.
did, okay.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. I really enjoyed. I'm kind of working at the same time, so I'm sure I missed large segments of it, but I appreciate that you all take the time to do this. So, as you're wrapping this up, and collectively, people are really scared and fearful, and of course, we're in the Pluto in Aquarius transit, so it's about us coming into our own power and uniting and taking the steps that we need to collectively get together, because regardless of what occurs on the stage, ultimately everything goes back to how we decide to act, whether we want to be in fear or love and all that. So I was just hoping that if anybody that chooses to provide some sort of statement of inspiration or something for hope, because even when I think of Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning, what is the meaning that we're going to give it? How are we going to look at this, and how are we going to proceed? Because we can either allow all this to affect us and stay afraid and be in fear, and or we can find the ways that we can be empowered. So I was just hoping that anybody else would like to share their thoughts on.
Yes, I've got something real quick. There is no hope. Hope
thanks.
is the illusion. Hope is the something's gonna save me. Hope is that I don't have to do anything because something else outside of myself is going to do it. Here's the hope. My action that I can make in my life, in my world, to inject as much love, as much forgiveness, as much compassion, and as much faith into. And then from that circle, then try to have a positive effect on my clients, on my family, on those people that can come into me. And then after that, wow, maybe I could do an EA Zoom meeting with a bunch of awesome people, and we can talk about how important it is for us each to all do this individually. And then that gets a little bigger. And then some of those circles intersect, and then more circles intersect. You want the hope. The hope is in what I can do and what you can do. There's nothing outside of us that I think is necessarily safe to put hope into. The hope is in our action.
I think it's understanding your own mindset, your own little loops that you get into about powerless because it's not real. You know, that's a lie. What can you do? I mean, sit down and write practical steps. Like I can, if I'm feeling helpless, I can go for a walk and put some energy out. You'll start to feel more empowered, and it starts from each moment and the choice that you make. So it's empowering yourself. It's taking steps yourself and buying into your own power.
Yeah, what's that saying? We're the people we've been waiting for.
Yes. Yes. We're our own saviors. And even though we're just droplets in an ocean, we make up the currents. And these are currents that make cliffs fall into the waters.
Yep.
And we're all, commando unit of drops that were chosen and chose to be here at this time and be part of these currents. We're our own saviors. We're the one we've been waiting for, definitely.
We have to remain active in doing any little steps that are available to us to, inspire and fight back against the oppressive powers that are trying to make us feel powerless.
So hard sometimes.
It is. Yeah, I've been feeling like this roller coaster, like
Yeah.
I feel like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. I'm okay. I believe
think that
I believe that
You are so
everything's going to be
supporting and
okay.
comforting in this
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Little
Empowering
steps.
this community. No?
yeah.
That's the hope. Here's
Yeah.
the hope. Mankind, us,
Yes.
warmth,
Yes.
Well, I've
community,
heard it
heart.
say, I've heard it said, welcome to this, among like Christian friends, welcome to the second coming of Christ, the mirror.
Mm,
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
The
Awesome.
mirror.
okay,
That's
well,
kind of narcissistic though, but yeah. Illusions of grandeur.
Ah,
But I'm sure Christ would say that we all have him within us, and that's the truth.
totally.
Awesome.
Great question, Rachel. Thanks.
Yeah, very great question. And actually, you almost answered the question
You did.
in the question, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I love it.
You voiced something important.
Yes. Well, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
This has been great.
Thank you. It's been so nice being with you.
Yeah, always. Until next time.